is a high leverage opportunity for creating mass entrepreneurs in India. So just to begin, I'll just give you a little overview about GAME. So GAME is, which stands for Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship, is a multi-stakeholder alliance where we are essentially trying to, build an ecosystem which focuses on job creating entrepreneurs and build a movement through which the idea is to be able to create and sustain 10 million like job creating entrepreneurs or mass entrepreneurs in India by 2030. And this should hopefully lead to creation of 50 million jobs for people, right? So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about Bhaskar. So Bhaskar is a great friend of GAME, and he has been leading Syngenta Foundation in India since 2013, before which he was at FICCI, where he directed the agriculture, food processing, and water divisions. He was closely working with the Ministry of Agriculture on policy formulations. And Bhaskar has a PhD in soil and water conservation engineering from IARI in New Delhi. And we have been, engaged with Bhaskar, with his model of agri entrepreneurship for a few months now. And very excited about him talking about this model. So, Bhaskar, without any further delay, I'll hand over the conversation to you.
Yeah. Thanks, PD, and thanks, GAME. It's always a pleasure engaging with GAME on such wonderful initiatives. So Foundation. A few words about Foundation before getting into the model that we are working on. Syngenta Foundation has been working in India since 2005, and the primary and the single objective has been to help improve the income of smallholder farmers, mostly in backward areas, tribal areas, where the annual income of the farmers are very low. That's been the model since 2005. And a couple of caveats: we are supported by Syngenta company, which is a global company, leading company in seeds and chemicals, but we have a very clear arm's length from the company. We don't promote any of the company products, and our sole objective is to improve the income of the smallholder farmers. So today we work with almost 50 companies in agribusiness, more than 50 of them. And so we are pretty much agnostic about product or technology as long as it's increasing the income of the smallholder farmer. So this particular project which I'm going to talk about, we started working on this model since 2014. The hypothesis is pretty simple, that and this applies not only to agriculture but also to probably health and education, that it's not because of lack of technologies that the progress is not happening in the Indian villages and with the smallholder farmers. It's primarily because of the adaptation of these technologies or adaptation of these technologies and what we call as a first mile access from the farmer's point of view, or the last mile delivery from the company's point of view. So there are thousands of technologies available, but somehow the delivery channels have been not efficient in getting those technologies to the ground. So that's where we said, how can we create a platform to connect these two big blocks in the society? How can we help small farmers access markets? And one of the route to that is how do we set up village level entrepreneurs or village level resources so that they can help small farmers connect to the markets. So that's been the whole idea. And if you look at the model, the way the model has been designed, again, entrepreneurship is not something new in India. It's been there for ages. A lot of government organizations have attempted entrepreneurship, but we approached it in a slightly different manner. We started working with rural youth in the villages who are grade class 10 or class 12 pass. Most of the forms of entrepreneurship in agriculture earlier were by engaging graduates in agriculture, but if you look at from a common sense point of view, somebody who is into a graduation or a post-graduation, mostly move out of villages and they would like to settle down in a district, at least a district level headquarters. So that's where we felt that if we can take a rural youth who is there in a village, who is into class 10 or class 12, and then engage them, the chance of they staying back in the village is high. So that's how we started looking at rural youth who are class 10 and class 12. So if you look at the model, each of these rural youth engage about 150 to 200 farmers, and they provide various agriculture services to these 150 farmers. So they become a kind of a one-stop solution for these farmers. They provide crop advisory, they provide inputs, they also link them to markets and create an insurance markets. As the program evolved, we also found that all the 4 functions are not done by a single individual. Some of them only adopt to do two functions, and there are separate entrepreneurs in the same village who can do other functions, 1 or 2 functions. For instance, we have an entrepreneur who does crop advisory and input linkages or nursery development for seedlings, and then there is a separate marketing entrepreneur in the village who helps farmers with the markets. That's how the program is evolved. By providing these services, these entrepreneurs make money, and that's how their business model has been developed. They make commission out of each service they provide, and they sustain themselves. And if you look at the AE life cycle, it starts with a selection, very rigorous selection that we put these rural youth through. On an average, the ratio of selecting an entrepreneur is 1:7 or 8, which means out of 70 to 80 that we put them through a battery of tests, starting with the written tests, interview, psychometry, talking to the community, talking to the parents, trying to understand if this person that we are selecting and on whom we are going to invest would stay put in a business or an entrepreneurship. We don't want somebody on whom we invest for 6 months training and then managing, and then they suddenly stop doing the business or providing the services to smallholder farmers. So that's the reason why we put them through a rigorous selection process, and we select them. Once we select them, we put them through a 45 days of residential training program, of which 20 to 25 days is a classroom where they're trained on the 50% on agriculture and 50% on entrepreneurship. And there's also a lot of practicals, and then there's a week of field visits. Then there's a week of exposure to the existing AEs where they spend a week with them, and a 5-day module on business development. They go back to the village, understand the 150 farmers, what kind of business, is business gap exists in the village. Say if there is a strong vegetable cluster and there is no nursery in the village, then it's an obvious business model to set up a nursery in the village and provide seedlings to the farmers. So they come back, and then we sit with them trying to develop a business plan and so on. Then we launch them as AE in the village, where we help them set up the enterprise, and we help them get all the regulatory licenses. Like if he or she wants to set up an input shop, they would require a seed and a fertilizer license. So we help them get those licenses, and we also give them access to banks.
Is not available.
We also get them access to the credit by facilitating linkages with the banks, and so on. So we help them essentially set up a business in a village. And the 4th point is very important, which is about mentoring. So for every 20-25 set of entrepreneurs, we have 1 graduate in agriculture acting as a mentor, which means he or she visits these 25 entrepreneurs at least once in a week. On every single day, they would visit about 4 to 5 entrepreneurs, trying to understand how their business plan is progressing, how they're engaging with the farmers. Are there any challenges they're facing? Say a particular entrepreneur would say, look, the farmers want this particular variety of a cabbage seed and it's not available in the local market. Can you help me source from a nearby town, from a Nashik or from Pune? So we help them with those kind of linkages, and they continue to monitor them and mentor them. And also it acts as a very good checks and balances on ensuring that these entrepreneurs are following a package of practices, right kind of ethical. They're doing that kind of ethical stuff. We don't want at the end of the day, having invested so much energy and resources, that these entrepreneurs behave like regular traders and start to sell spurious and fly-by-night operator products. And the conservative estimate is that 50% of the inputs sold are spurious. So one of the things that the program has a direct impact is knocking off the complete spurious products, because we connect them to the right dealers and distributors, and the mentors continue to monitor the quality of products being sold by them. So that's the big program, the big pillar in the whole program, the mentoring approach. And then of course we do the farmer engagement in training farmers, crop advisory, and giving them the right package of practices and so on, and do the impact assessment. So the program has received a big boost in 2017. We started in 2014, growing very organically with about 100, 200 farmers every year. And in 2017, we started working with a number of partners like World Bank, Rabobank Foundation, Tata Trust, National Institute of Rural Development, couple of state government of Bihar, Andhra, and Maharashtra, and banks. Here to quote one, IDBI, but today we are working with several of them. I think these partners has been bringing in more partners has led to the expansion of the program. Here you look at the number of entrepreneurship opportunities or archetypes we call different kind of entrepreneurs engage in. We have right from the top on the input supplier to business correspondent of a bank, to market linkage, farm machinery linkages, nursery linkage, and some of the animal husbandry, livestock opportunities like goatry entrepreneur, dairy entrepreneur, even poultry entrepreneurs, and so on. So they've been when I say these opportunities, like I mentioned earlier, some of the entrepreneurs combine 2 or 3 archetypes and continue to work on 2, 3, and some of them continue to work on one single archetype. So and we continuously keep adding more number of entrepreneurial opportunities and archetypes as we progress. This is the progress of entrepreneurship journey that we had. Like I said, the 2014 we started with a 27 small cohort of entrepreneurs, and it's been a very good learning curve for us. The first set of 24 of them have failed in the first year, and then mostly because of the right kind of not deploying the right kind of selection methods, right kind of trainings, and so on. So we continue to improve the program. And last 6 years, if you see each of those modules, whether it is selection, training, or mentoring, each of them would have gone through at least 5 to 6 different iterations where we changed the model and continue to improve it as we move further. So by 2020 March, we expect to be around 3,500 entrepreneurs. Right now, we are about 2,500 odd entrepreneurs, and then 2020 end December, we are expecting it to be around close to 7,000-8,000 entrepreneurs. So going back in the beginning, I emphasized that the entrepreneurial program is not something new. It's been here for ages, but I think what we essentially did in the whole program is to create an ecosystem. And if you look at any of those blocks, if you take on the right-hand side, the block around the core block, if you see, what does AE do? AE helps small farmers with crop advisory, inputs, and market linkages. To do that, on the right-hand side, light greenish color, we engage AEs on, we train them in agriculture and entrepreneurship. We help them set up business. To help them set up a business, we help them with a business plan and licenses. And then we have an AEM supporting the entrepreneurs. And the AEM in the whole yellow block there in the bottom right-hand corner, where the AEM then trains, is also trained, and he's supported by a project lead and an operations lead. And then if you look at the top right-hand corner in the green color, the credit, we facilitate credit to small farmers and to the entrepreneurs. To do that, we engage both in banks and NBFCs. The banks and NBFCs are reluctant to provide credit to the entrepreneurs because these are first generation entrepreneurs who don't have a credit record. So we then went on to create a first loss guarantee, so that the first loss guarantee provides about 10% credit. It's just getting launched. The banks are still reluctant, so then we created an independent credit monitoring team on the ground, which helps banks do the due diligence of the entrepreneur, fills the application, dispersal of the credit, monitoring of the credit, and finally helping the bank also in the repayment of the credit. And now we are also creating credit scores for each entrepreneur, for the entrepreneur, so that the banks also have additional information on from the credit scores. They can understand what kind of credit score each entrepreneur has. So all I'm saying is that we continue to, whenever we hit a roadblock, say in this case, we hit a roadblock in terms of credit. So we went on to create various other modules which facilitate the credit to happen to the entrepreneur. So most of the entrepreneurships stop at training, but for us, we feel that the training is just a beginning point, and we continue to build this kind of modules as we move forward. And similarly, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner in the blue circles, it's about the crop advisory. So for crop advisory, we help these entrepreneurs develop demo plots, and these demo plots are used for farmer trainings and also for deploying new technologies, showcasing new technologies. And the new technologies are sourced both from the startups and the government, like KVKs, and the government and the state universities. These demo plots and crop advisory help us in two ways. One, it accelerates the adoption of technology by smallholder farmers, and obviously leads to the business generation of an entrepreneur. Say we have a tomato crop with mulching and without mulching, and there's a clear perceivable difference in the height of the crop between mulching and non-mulching. So the farmers would then ask the entrepreneur, if this technology is helping, how can I get this technology? Then the entrepreneur would then sell a mulch cover to the farmer. So it leads to the business of entrepreneur. So while for us the end goal of the whole program is to improve the smallholder farmer income, the route to that is the AE model, and it's also important that we look at the sustenance of AE. If AE fails, the whole model fails. So that's the reason why we tend to keep the balance between AE sustainability and the farmer income going up. That's how the program has been designed. And yeah, so we have of the 43 entrepreneurs, about 369 entrepreneurs here, and some of the stories of change. I will request PD to share the presentation with all of you, so you can. And this is a case of a woman entrepreneur in Maharashtra who helped, who facilitated credit to the smallholder farmers, and then by virtue of that also able to improve her income, because these farmers then come to her shop and buy inputs and get crop advisory. The current program, we are working in 9 states, 57 districts, roughly close to 6,000 villages with 43 entrepreneurs. Of these 2543, still about 180 odd, close to 200 would have just been trained or in the final stage of training. So close to 2,300 would be operational. In that again, about little close to 20% or 20% would be the ones whom we will weed out at the end of the financial year in March, based on several stop rules. We have very recently we created a stop rule for how to disengage or engage with an entrepreneur. So the one of the stop rules is that if the entrepreneur has been in a business for more than a year and has not done a business transaction of say 3 to 4 lakhs, that which means they're not really picking up the business, or it's not only the business but also engagement with the farmers. If they've not enrolled 100 farmers, if they're not able to train 100 farmers and so on, and then it's what we call as a disengaging with those entrepreneurs. So roughly about 20% of the entrepreneurs of whom we fully launch fail due to various reasons, not having access to credit, not interested, and so on. And we have 15 different archetypes. Rabi, we are working with close to 1.9 lakh farmers. Rabi, access to water is limited, so the number of farmers tend to be low. But I think in coming Kharif in June 2020, I think by then we'll have close to 3,000 plus entrepreneurs. and we should be engaging with more than 3.5 to 4 lakh farmers in Kharif. That's about the current program. If you look at 2019, the total transactions that happened through these roughly 1800 entrepreneurs who were fully operational was about 70 crores in terms of seeds, pesticides, fertilizers, nursery, farm equipment, and also others which include husbandry services and also financial institutions. Several of these entrepreneurs are close to a few hundred of them are digital banking entrepreneurs who act as mobile ATMs in the village for deposit and dispersal of money by the farmers. So, and they do also other services where they get a small commission paid for the digital banking activities. So these are about transactions. And one of the core things in the program is also about agri-produce marketing. So last year we nearly clocked 20,000 metric tons of agri-produce was sold to the entrepreneurs for 46 crops in different states, in the 9 states that we talked about, and about close to 31 odd crores of value of the crops were sold. And I already mentioned we have about 15% of the entrepreneurs as women entrepreneurs. And so that was the journey from 2014 to 2019. So we've been in discussion with the Tata Trust to scale up this model, and we found, being the largest philanthropic organization in India and having a large presence in agriculture and agricultural livelihoods, we been working together for the last 2 years to develop a business plan on how to scale up the Agri Entrepreneur model. So we created a new entity called Agri Entrepreneur Growth Foundation, AG Foundation, about a year back, but it's fully operational from this January 2020. It's a joint initiative between Syngenta Foundation and Tata Trust. And we are embarking on a very ambitious journey to create 100,000 or 1 lakh entrepreneurs in the next 5 years. If we can do that, we would be reaching about close to 15 million farmers. And that's the scale I think we can talk about, because we have about 120 million farmers. So if you reach about 15 million farmers, then I think it would have been a decent job. So the AG Foundation, you see the network, how it would happen. We have smallholder farmers in the bottom, then supported by entrepreneurs, then who are in turn supported by network managers. We're bringing in a new layer here called network manager. As a foundation, it's difficult to enable commercial transactions for the entrepreneurs. So what we are doing is we are bringing in a commercial entity which can manage 1,000 to 1,500 entrepreneurs, supply them inputs, help them with the market linkages and credit. Thereby, their bargaining power with the seed and fertilizer companies will also be much higher. Thereby, further discounts can be passed on to small farmers and entrepreneurs. So that's why we are creating a layer called network managers. And also, a small portion of that, the profit made by the network manager will be passed on to AEG Foundation for us to redeploy that in creating more entrepreneurs, because AEG Foundation is will be built on in a hybrid funding model, partial grants, partial revenue from these entrepreneurs, and partial service fee, or a kind of entrepreneur setup fee that we get from state governments and some of the corporates. So it's a hybrid model, and then there are clear kind of KPIs for our what do we want to do with the farmers, with clear income increase in income and income diversification. And with AEs, it's about net profit and jobs created in the villages. With network managers, it's about revenue, services, and social goals. And the AEGF, it's clearly about number of entrepreneurs, number of farmers reached, and number of impact of services and how it's sustainable. So that's about the AEGF. And this is the partner landscape that we're talking. It's this is a couple of months old, so we have added a number of partners to this slide. We work with almost all the major foundations, and then we have a couple of state governments, like I mentioned to you earlier. The National Institute of Rural Development is one of the important partners, which provides a certificate to us certificate to all the entrepreneurs for them to enable seed and fertilizer licenses. And then we have a whole lot of input companies, output companies, and also banks in the bottom. That's how we have created this. That's from my side, and thank you very much, for joining us in this program. Now I have my colleague Amol Deshmukh, who is a project lead in a Maharashtra with a project called Umed. It's a state rural livelihood mission in Maharashtra. Amol himself was an Agri Entrepreneur Mentor before now becoming a project lead and managing about close to 350 entrepreneurs in Maharashtra. So I will request Amol to talk about what does it look like in a day of an AE, and what does it look like in a day of an Agri Entrepreneur Mentor.
Hi, good evening. Myself is Amol. Firstly, I told about the AEM engage with the AE in a day. AEM engage in a AE with the different phases of activity. Firstly, we start with the area mapping. In this activity, he finalized the village list, then the campaigning of AE program, then the lead farmer of the village lead farmer of village selected, list of candidate prepared and make the Excel sheet. Then second part is the selection of AEs, orientation of the AE program. Then written test he arranged, the personal interview conduct. Then the Excel sheet he will be the prepared. Then when he goes with the AE for the business and the business plan, the business plan preparation each and every individually. Number of farmer engaged with the list prepared by the AEM. Then indenting of AE businesses prepared by the AEM with the help of AE. And in season, AEM basically busy in the linkage with the credit, then the training of the farmer, then the demo plot creation for the knowledge and extension of the activity, then the monthly meeting of the E, and then data collection of the E transaction. These are the all activity which is deal by the AEM with the E. And in case of E, the day how the E busy with the farmer in a day. Pre-season he busy in the crop planning with the farmer, then the indent generation, then the business plan preparation, and the linkages with the bank and the distributor and the trader for the input linkages. In season, he busy in the farmer meeting, training, sales the input, uh, seed, pesticide and fertilizer, nursery and mechanization support to the farmer in their cluster. Uh, After season, during the end of the season, he support the farmer for the harvesting calendar preparation, then collective marketing support, and the collection prepare the collection center and link to the output linkages company. This is the E and AEM day by schedule. Thank you. Thank you.
So, PD, a little bit of, that was Amol giving in a brief, detailed explanation about what an entrepreneur does. So, like he said, three different seasons. I mean, before a season, during the season, or after the season, there's a clear list of activities that the entrepreneur does with the farmers. And it ranges from training farmers to supplying seedlings or supplying inputs to all the way up to the market linkages. Yeah.
Got it. That's actually very enlightening for some of us, because we've never been to the ground to see what's the day for an AE or an Agri Entrepreneur Mentor like, right? So I would also like to ask Amol. Today he works with a very large set of Agri entrepreneurs, right? So how has that transition been like? I mean, and what a couple of challenges, if you can mention, or areas where like entrepreneurs need more help from him today, that would be very useful, Bhaskar.
In the when we operate with the large number of AE, the major challenge if credit facility available to the AE, we can easily AE.
Amol, I think you're slightly away from the screen. Please come a little closer.
Large major problem for the AE incubation is the credit. If we easily available credit to the AE incubation in the short time. The major challenge for the EE program is the credit available to the EE.
Got it. That's great. Okay, so Bhaskar, I think we'll move to the next segment, where I think it would be great to talk about the opportunity where you. There is some background noise. Okay, that's gone. Thank you.
Now it's clear.
So yeah, so I just wanted to have a conversation with you. What are the market opportunities or sort of job creation opportunities for AE that you see already happening? That would be very enlightening for me.
Yeah. So, PD, what happens is the mass entrepreneurship opportunities exist for a particular set of entrepreneurial opportunities in the agri value chain. So it wouldn't exist for all the agri archetypes. Like I mentioned, we work with about 15 different types of entrepreneurs. Say, for instance, nursery. Nursery is almost like a solo job where somebody has a nursery, he sets up, and then he's producing seedlings and supplying the seedlings to the farmers. So that's a very, very a simple archetype where the mass entrepreneurship opportunity would not exist. But where they exist, at least I see about 4 or 5 different kind of archetypes where the mass entrepreneurship opportunities exist. So one, for instance, farm machinery. We have seen some of the entrepreneurs having a bouquet of farm equipments. Say somebody manages about 3 or 4 tractors and a range of farm equipment, and is able to take help of 4 or 5 operators like drivers to manage those farm equipment center. It's more like a custom hiring center. So that's one clear opportunity where a farm machinery entrepreneur engages about 4 to 5 people to provide services to the smallholder farmer. The second one is we did an experiment in Vidarbha region with spraying entrepreneurs. See, one of the biggest challenges in the spraying of agriculture chemicals is the right kind of safety measures not being deployed by the spraying people or the farmers, leading to a lot of health issues. And secondly, the right kind of dosages, mixing all kinds of chemical concoctions leading to problems. Or third, not using right kind of spraying nozzles and right kind of spraying equipment. I was talking to a very senior scientist in ICR system who said that the 20 to anybody's guess, but on a higher side, it could be about 25 to 30% is the efficiency that is in the spraying nozzles used in the country, and it's a huge loss, and it's creating an environmental disaster.
Absolutely.
So there we introduce a spraying AE concept where a spraying entrepreneur manages about 5 spraying spraymen and provides them right kind of equipment, provides them right kind of stewardship practices. All of them are wearing masks and gloves, and they know exactly the right kind of chemicals to be used, and it actually reduces the use of chemicals and at the same time brings in the right kind of productivity in the crop. So the spraying entrepreneurs are definitely one big opportunity. For each spraying entrepreneur, he or she can employ about 5 such spraying AEs. Third is about marketing entrepreneurs, where we have marketing entrepreneurs under whom we have a transporter, somebody who takes the vegetables to the market, or if it's a cereal crops, a warehouse operator, somebody has a warehouse, manages that, and somebody is engaged in grading and sorting, helping farmers with the post-harvest technologies and trainings and all. So there are 3, 4 opportunities there. And similar one exists in the processing, in small scale processing. When you're engaged in a small scale processing, somebody sets up a processing unit. There is a transporter involved in it. There's also a warehouse operator and a packaging person and so on. So about 4, again, different type of opportunities. So in some of the entrepreneurial opportunities, we find there are the mass entrepreneurship. So that's where I would stop, PD.
Fantastic. So, I mean, I think we broadly discussed 4 different avenues which are already sort of on way today, right? So that's farm machinery,
Yes.
spraying, marketing entrepreneurs who are either doing transporting or warehousing or sorting, and then the processing itself, right, as a mass entrepreneurship opportunity.
Yeah.
Which ones, or where do you think, Bhaskar, is the next sort of set of job creating entrepreneurs in the agri entrepreneur system will come out of? Do you have like any insights, or is there like an actual path that you're seeing where that is happening today?
So one, if the program takes off in the right direction, what we definitely feel is the 100,000 entrepreneurs that we're talking is a very small number for an opportunity. A market like India, where we have 120 million farmers, I think we would at least need close to little more than anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million entrepreneurs there.
Wow.
And that's a larger landscape I'm talking about. And within that, definitely the farm machinery market is something that's been not really that tapped. So for instance, in some of the southern states, you find penetration of farm machinery higher to the eastern states. So I think with the labor, the shortages and the prices of daily labor going up, I think the farm machinery opportunities are really high. I think that's where the next level of the mass entrepreneurship will come in terms of farm machinery, rental centers, and those kind of things. And also in the processing side, agri processing, it's anybody's guess the total volume, the total produce in agriculture. It's about 8 to 10% of the total produce is processed. So there's a huge processing opportunities that would exist at village level processing and decentralized processing, packaging, and those kind of opportunities.
Got it. And so I think, so you said like there is like a potential to do create 100,000 agri entrepreneurs, right? What would it require as an ecosystem for us to get there as quickly as possible? How do you envision that happening?
Yeah, see, for us, I think the challenge has always been around access to finance to these entrepreneurs. Like that's what even Amul has just mentioned a short while ago. Because the demand is there for these entrepreneurs, and our role has been we've been evolving and building up our capacities to train more people and launch these entrepreneurs in a big way. One is the credit, access to credit, and of course the second is of the quality of the manpower in terms of the AE mentors that we would have to look out for in future. So we're also looking at creating our own AE mentor leadership program in the foundation, where we offer internships to the graduates in agriculture and train them in advance and maintain a bench strength, so that as and when we are expanding an area, we can immediately deploy more AE mentors there. That's the kind of strategy that we are developing. And trainings is not really a challenge, because we're just looking at, we have today close to 18 training centers that we operate across India, and all of them are residential facilities, and we are expanding rapidly. So I think the big challenge is access to finance to the entrepreneurs, and this, we are not really looking at a big amount. We are talking about something like 50,000 lakh as a starting capital, so that start off an enterprise. That's the kind of amount that we are looking at. And we are working with several banks, and of lately several of them have been very supportive. So we're slowly making headway in that with that challenge.
Fantastic. Okay, so with this, I think we'll move to the Q&A section. So the first question that we have is from Ulas, who asks, to share a little more on the first loss of credit monitoring or rating mechanism that you have set up. What was the response from NBFCs and banks?
Initially? So we set up this first loss with about 10% portfolio guarantee, which means if any, we say, let's take a ticket size of 1 lakh per entrepreneur. So if you want 1 crore of loan for 100 entrepreneurs, we put up a 10 lakh as a fixed deposit, so that the NBFC and the bank can come in and provide a crore loan to those 100 entrepreneurs. And say after 6 months or 1 year period, when the repayment timelines are there, if say 5 of the entrepreneurs fail, so they would deduct 5 lakhs from that 10 lakhs of fixed deposit that we are given, and as on a portfolio, and then everything remains normal. And at any stage when the entrepreneurs are successful and they come back and pay that amount, then that amount will be put back into the FD, and it will continue to maintain there. So the response has been positive. 10% is what we are looking at as a first loss guarantee support.
Fantastic. Okay, so I have the next question from Sasidhar, and he asks whether the AEs are also into farming, right? In that case, how do the local farmers respond to their services?
AEs are also into farming, definitely, because they come from, we select, one of the conditions is that the AE has to be from a village and has to be in a farming. They would be doing 1/2 acre to 1 acre or 1.5 acre farming. And all these AEs also, of lately, we have been nudging them to set up their farm as a demonstration farm. So where we deploy 6 or 7 technologies with and without, with the technology and with control. Say, for instance, a tomato crop with mulching, tomato crop without mulching, tomato crop with drip irrigation, without drip irrigation, and something treated with vermicompost, something not treated with vermicompost, and so on. So when we deploy that 6-7 technologies, it's easy for the farmers in the region, that village, to come and see and immediately adopt the technology. So that, so AEs are also farmers, and looking at that package of practices they're adopting, the farmers also adopt quickly. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that essentially this is also helpful for the overall ecosystem, right?
Yes.
Farmers are coming from farming backgrounds. It definitely is more beneficial to the ecosystem than otherwise.
Yeah.
Got it. The next question that I have is it basically talks again about small farm holders. Since most of the farmers that the AEs are dealing with are small farm holders, are they able to afford the services of AEs, right? And how's the cost of services? How is the payment model?
Yeah. So essentially, AE is not eating from the same pie of the farmer, but creating a larger pie and making a share for himself. That's how I would put it. Let me give you a specific example. Say, farmer is buying a packet of seeds at 300 rupees a bag. Because the AE is now aggregating for 150 farmers, he is getting from a distributor around 270, and he would give it to the farmer at 285 or 290 at a doorstep in a village. And second point, like I mentioned earlier, we are eliminating, claiming 100% would be a little difficult, but to a large extent, maybe about 85-90%, all the spurious products in the market, which were available earlier. So we are only providing through the AEs high quality products. So that's because of which the yield and the productivity of the farmer increases. So in that sense, the AE creates an opportunity for himself to earn money by providing services to the farmers. If you look at even things like nursery entrepreneur, say farmers were using their own nursery and soil grown nursery on a small raised bed, and some of the vegetable crops are very expensive. A packet of seed would cost about, a small packet would cost about 3,000-4,000. And when they do on their own, because of whatever soil borne diseases and other factors, the germination is not good. And if they were looking for 1,000 plants, 1,000 seeds, and only say 700 of them will sprout. But when a AE supplies, he's supplying high quality seedlings. When the farmer requires 1,000 seedlings, he's providing 1,000 seedlings, and the quality and the growth of the seedlings is much higher, which will result in a higher yield. So the farmer is willing to pay that, additional 30 paisa for each seedling, because he knows by paying 30 paisa from each plant, he will make at least 30 or 40 rupees from each plant, additional money from each plant. So that's the kind of clear delta that we are able to establish, and because of the delta revenue for the farmer, they are able to directly or indirectly pay for that services.
Fantastic. Okay, I think that brings us to the close of. Oh, sorry. There is one more question that just popped up. We'll just take this question and then conclude the webinar. Can I please get the fourth question? So meanwhile, as Bhaskar said, I will also share the deck with all the participants who joined us today. Oh, so there were no additional questions. Sachita was just thanking Bhaskar for answering his question. So that's fantastic. It brings us to the end of the webinar. Bhaskar, as always, thank you so much for your time, your thoughts, your the work, exceptional work that you are doing with the foundation and doing the network of agri entrepreneurs across the country. Special thanks to Amol for joining us and letting us know what a day uh, you know looks like for an agri entrepreneur, as well as a very important cog in the entire machinery, which is the Agri Entrepreneur Mentor. So with this, then thank you to all the participants who joined us for this webinar. So thank you and have a good day. Thanks a lot, Bhaskar, once again.
Thanks, Kiri, and thanks, Kim, as always, for this wonderful opportunity, creating a larger entrepreneurship in India. And thanks, Kiri.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you.
I think it's done.